And again, like Biden, you wonder at times whether she's lost the plot completely.
But how does raising taxes on corporations lower the cost of gas, the cost of a used car, the cost of food for everyday Americans?
So look, I think we encourage those who have done very well, right? Especially those who care about climate change to support a fair tax code.
This administration is responsible for overseeing the world's largest economy. Now, if what you just saw doesn't scare you, then I don't think anything will.
It's pretty ugly. There it is, 1129. That's not where you want to be at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The NASDAQ was looking even worse. The S&P, no pretty picture either.
Nothing has changed on how we see the stock market. That's not something that we keep an eye on every day.
Sorry, you don't keep an eye on the stock market every day. I'm sorry. Is the presidency a part-time job? So if the economy is not in your, top 5 priorities? Well, I wonder what is.
So that's the administration's new White House press secretary. Her name is Karine Jean-Pierre, and she was asked last week about inflation and the stock market and the status of them both right now. And she came back with her answers very clearly. They want to target climate change, taxing the rich. But as far as the stock market goes, it's not really a concern of theirs. They're not looking at it. They're not paying attention to it. It's not a White House thing. But if you clicked on this video, I know it's probably a thing for you, as it is for myself. Guys, what's going on? It is Wednesday, May 25th, 2022. And we saw the SPY bounce today. AMC, GME as well took off with it. 50-point rate hike like we expected. A lot of the downside to this news about the rate hike has already been figured into the market. And we got a bunch of things to talk about tonight. I want to get into March 3rd, again, rearing its ugly head. Why that day is coming back up again, we have no idea. I want to get into the $40 billion for Ukraine. We'll talk about monkeypox. We'll talk about the market itself. And before I let you go, I want to touch on the tragedy in Texas and why I made the brackets video the other night specifically. But before we do any of that,
cue the speeder.
This is the way.
So the SPY and the market itself overall had nice bounce today because I believe of Jerome Powell sticking with his 50-point hike. AMC closed the day at 1188, up about 14.5%. It's down a little bit in after hours. GME was a monster today, almost double, 30%. 115.17 closing price. We lost about $1 in after hours. But as always, take that with a grain of salt. Now, of course, we can't just have amazing news. There's always got to be something looming negative over our heads. And right now, word coming out about the monkeypox from Europe is that apparently this was transmitted more than likely sexually at some raves, apparently, in Spain and Belgium. It says in the article here on NBC News that by nature, sexual activity involves intimate contact, which one would expect to increase the likelihood of transmission, whatever a person's orientation is. So not blaming it on anyone. They're just saying that that's how it is naturally transmitted. Now, the article continued on to say that the WHO had recorded more than 90 cases across Britain, Spain, Israel, France, Switzerland, the US, and Australia. The UN agency said the outbreak is a highly unusual event and said the fact that cases are being seen in so many different countries suggests the disease may have been silently spreading for some time. The agency's Europe director warned that as summer begins across the continent, mass gatherings, festivals, and parties could accelerate the spread of monkeypox. Now, I don't know why everyone's so surprised. Bill Gates has been talking about this. He has been calling for a pandemic task force for a while now. Back at the climate change accords in Glasgow last year, he was saying that terrorists were going to use some type of smallpox as a biological weapon, and therefore he bid for billions in funding to prevent future pandemics, and we all know how he did on the last vaccine. So I don't find it so surprising. I think all of us expected this would be here at some point or another. But right now, it doesn't seem like too much of a concern. Biden's walked back his statement saying it was a concern, and I haven't heard too much about it since then.
Right. Get ready for this, because you ain't going to hear it nowhere on YouTube, because my life is dope, and I do dope shit. So get ready for this.
Are you ready? I'm going to give you 2020's news today. So apparently this whole thing about March 3rd came about because of Unusual Whales and his tweet yesterday talking about the appeals case that the SEC has had in litigation, basically being appealed since 2020. And it's talking about data collection and making revenue from that data collection. Now, if you just go and read the article, just go down just a little bit, and you'll see down here, it's from an SEC 2020 approved new rule. This rule isn't just got voted on and put into implementation. This was approved and voted on back in 2020. We can go right to the SEC and we can see exactly what the document was. So here it is right here. SEC adopts rules to modernize key market infrastructure responsible for collecting, consolidating, and disseminating equity market data. In particular, these rules are designed to increase competition and transparency, which will improve data quality and data access for all market participants, said Chairman Jay Clayton. And again, guys, this is talking about the infrastructure of data collection in the market itself. It says in the top paragraph right here, this infrastructure has not been significantly updated since its initial implementation in the late 1970s. The adopted rules update and significantly expand the content of NMS market data to better meet the diverse needs of investors in today's equity markets. So according to Reuters' article, that the U.S. Appeals Court has upheld this decision that was decided back in 2020. To go ahead with this, they've been given the green light. This is not Robot Godzilla or anything like that. Besides, Lou told us all that the transparency rules, they pushed it down the road till November, if you remember.
The whole transparency thing was pushed over till fucking November. Like, it's there in the fall. Like, they're gonna go to another round. Like, okay, no big deal, but that's cool. That's out. That's no more for us.
Okay, so I'm going to try to remember to link this article for you guys, but hopefully you have the understanding what the two separate things are. One is an SEC ruling that was put back into effect in December of 2020. It was adopted. It was implemented. It went on appeal from some of the exchanges. And then we had the transparency proposal that was on the SEC's homepage back at the end of March, beginning of April. We all talked about it. I called the SEC to make sure you could still comment and that the rule hadn't been put in place yet. These two separate things have nothing to do with each other. All right, last thing I want to touch on before Texas is what's going on in Ukraine right now. And the $60 billion that we have sent over to Ukraine in the last 2 months, $40 billion was just sent last week. It was approved. They said we need to keep the fight going. We got to support Ukraine. And look at BBC just 2 days ago or 4 days ago now. Zelensky, only diplomacy can end Ukraine war. You got to be shitting me. After we just sent you $60 billion, now you're going to decide that diplomacy is the only way. You can't. He suggested his country could be victorious against Russia on the battlefield. However, he added that the war could only come to a conclusive halt at the negotiating table. And look, I understand this guy's in between a rock and a hard place. He's got the Nazis on one hand telling him he can't surrender. He's got the Russians on the other telling him he can't join NATO. He's in a really tough spot, but we just sent them $60 billion. And as Marjorie Taylor Greene said, there's no baby formula for American mothers. Again, guys, we talked about it on this channel. The only way this war was coming to an end was through diplomacy on Putin's terms. Ukraine never stood a shot in this. It just wasted a bunch of innocent lives, $60 billion in money that could have gone to a lot of good things.
We should all be very proud. I'll be proud that we had the opportunity when Putin decided, whatever it is he decided, to be brutal and cruel and a coward, that we were there to help. It's about democracy versus a dictatorship. Democracy must prevail.
And when I keep saying that politics run this country, they really do, guys. They really do. All right, before I let you go, I want to touch real quick on the tragedy that happened in Texas. It's very early in this. A lot of things are still just being found out. 19 people lost their lives yesterday. And for tonight, all I want to focus on is the families and just make sure that my heartfelt prayers go out to their families, my condolences for their loss that they're suffering. And it's a tragic situation, especially with little kids. people have mental problems, people have issues, anger and bipolar and schizophrenia. There's all kinds of things going on out there. We got to calm down, stop jumping to conclusions about what we need to do with gun control, making it a partisan issue. Right now, the family needs to heal. That jerk-off Beto O'Rourke interrupting the governor this afternoon. Everyone just needs to chill, take a step back, and let these people grieve for a little bit. And that's how I feel about it. All right, guys, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to go answer some comments. As soon as I get this uploaded, we will be live tomorrow night at 9 o'clock, no doubt about it. Awesome day today in the market. Hopefully tomorrow will be a little more of the same. Keep your eye on the next couple weeks, guys. We've been talking about it. Possibly we'll see some move. Don't get psyched out. Keep everything nice and chill. You know how we do. As always, guys, thank you for all the likers, the viewers, the commenters, my new subscribers, my OGs. I appreciate each and every one of you. We are here to break the wheel. This is Ape Nation. I'm the Massalorian, and I'm out.